Graham Fredrick Young, known as the Teacup Poisoner. Graham Fredrick Young was born on the 7th of September 1947 in North London, Neasden. Born to Fredrick and Molly Young, he also had an older sister, Winifred. When Graham Young was 14 weeks old, his mum Molly sadly passed away, and he was sent away to live with his uncle and aunt, while his sister went to live with their grandparents. Several years after, his dad Fredrick remarried to another woman named Molly, and he reunited with his dad and new wife and sister. From such a young age, Graham was fascinated by poisons and their effects, and by 1961, 14 years old, in 1961, he started to test poisons on his family. Enough poison to make them violently ill. The poisons Graham used and brought from the chemists, saying he was older than he was, convincing them they were being used for chemistry, science experiments for school, were thallium and antimony. His poison spree began in February 1961. He poisoned his stepmother Molly, his dad Fredrick, and sister Winifred. They all suffered vomiting, diarrhea, and excruciating stomach pains. He even poisoned a couple of his friends from school, and they suffered similar painful symptoms. Even he was being sick at home, acting it out. It must be a bug going around. On the morning of November 1961, Winifred, his sister, he served her a cup of tea. She found it to taste sour from one mouthful, and she threw it away. She left for work by train and began to hallucinate. She was taken from the train station to hospital, and the doctors found that she had been exposed to the poison Atropa belladonna, commonly known as deadly nightshade. Fredrick Young, the dad, confronted his son Graham, where he switched it on his sister Winifred, saying she was making shampoo in the teacups. That's how it must have happened. Fred didn't believe Graham, and after finding nothing in his bedroom, he warned his son to be more careful in the future, messing about with them bloody chemicals. Easter Sunday, 1962. Molly Young, his stepmother, died. Not by a prolapsed cervical disc, as the doctor noted, but by a lethal dose of Valium by Graham. He even laced the food at Molly's wake. People who attended became ill, including his father, who was rushed to hospital where they told him he was suffering from antimony poisoning and one more dose would have killed him. Fred's sister, Winifred, Graham's aunt, and his science teacher, who knew about his fascinations with chemistry and poisons, arranged for a psychiatrist to interview Graham, posing to be a carer's advisor. They contacted the police after the interview when Graham revealed to him the huge amount of knowledge he knew on the poisons. He was arrested. He was arrested May 1962 after school and was found to have in his possessions Valium and antimony. In his arrest, he confessed to poisoning his father, stepmother, sister, school friend, he wasn't charged for the murder of his stepmother as her autopsy report did not list poisoning as the cause of her death, but was charged and pleaded guilty for 3 charges of poisoning to inflict grievous bodily harm. He was then detained under Section 60 of the Mental Health Act in Broadmoor Hospital and was not to be released for 15 years without the approval of the Home Secretary. And guess how many years he done? 9, not 15, as he was being deemed as fully recovered by the prison psychiatrist in June 1970, stating he was no longer obsessed to poisons, violence, and was no longer a danger to others in the public. Even after Graham Young stated to the psychiatrist, "When I get out, I am going to kill one person for every year I've spent in this place." After his release, he went to stay in a hostel and attended a storekeeping training course until he secured a job in a warehouse. On his application for work, he said he had studied chemistry and said that his lack of employment history was because he had suffered mental breakdowns following the death of his mother in a car accident. And this was his cover-up story for his employees, how he ended up in Broadmoor. His co-workers, not being aware of his poison history, would gladly accept a cup of tea of him, and he would offer and make the tea every chance he could with each employee. Each employer had their own mug at work, which made it easier for him to target his specific co-worker for poisoning. As the co-workers started to experience dizziness, severe cramps, pins and needles, including his boss, Bob Eagle, who was admitted to hospital where he died in agony on the 7th of July 1971. His death was recorded excuse me, as pneumonia, and not even 2 months after his boss had died. Fred Biggs started to suffer similar symptoms to Bob Eagle, as well as other co-workers. Again this time, they were suffering with hair loss, sexual dysfunctions, cramps, sickness. This brought the attention to experts to test the water, even chemicals in the workplace, but nothing showed up as being poisonous. Fred Biggs was admitted to the London Hospital for nervous disease. He was in agony and in excruciating pain right up until he died in November 1971. His death raised great concern with the firm, and over 70 employees had recorded similar symptoms, and they all feared for their personal life and safety. And so they should have done as well. The doctor on site tried to reassure the workers everything about their health and safety was being strictly looked after, and that's when Graham Young challenged him, the doctor, quizzing him why thallium poison had not been yet considered. The doctor was so shocked and surprised by his in-depth knowledge and reported it to the management, who reported it to the police. Graham was arrested on the 21st of November 1971 and was found with thallium in his possession. They also discovered his diary with details of how he poisoned everyone, the doses he had given them, their effects, and whether he was going to allow each victim to live or die. On arrest, he confessed to poisoning Mr. Eagle and Mr. Biggs and other work colleagues, and admitted in using different poisons to confuse the doctors. And he boasted in committing the perfect murder in killing his stepmother Molly. After 20 minutes of explaining to the police the effects thallium had on the human body, he was then asked why he poisoned people, who were his family and friends and work colleagues. His response was, "I don't see them as people, but nothing more than guinea pigs." He was then charged with 2 counts of murder, 2 counts of attempted murder, and 4 counts of grievously bodily harm. Sorry. On trial in St Albans Court, 19th of June 1972, Graham Young pleaded not guilty. The prosecution calls 75 witnesses to testify against Graham Young. His diary was also read out in court. The examination of Fredrick's internal organs found Valium in his intestines, kidneys, muscles, bones, and brain tissue. Graham Young was his only defence, stating the diary was just a written fantasy. After 1.5 hours, the jury found Graham Young guilty on all accounts, and when asked, he requested to be sent to a prison instead of Broadmoor again. His request was granted and was sentenced to life in prison at Parkhurst Prison in Isle of Man. Whilst in prison, he befriended Ian Brady, who was the Moors murderer, where they both shared fantasies and discussions for other serial killers. 1 month before Graham Young's 43rd birthday in 1990, he was found dead in his cell. The cause was heart attack after a post-mortem, but as he had no history of heart problems, it was said he may have committed suicide himself, using poison to do so, or the inmates or prison officers done it to him, of the fear of him getting to them first. That's my story on Graham Young, of how, researching it as well, with the Home Secretary releasing him after 9 years. They sort of changed all of that after this had happened. So there was like a big concern about it. I think they have to have 2 psychologists now, like interview them before they're released. But he even said to the psychiatrist that admitted him, like, said he was like fit to be out with the public. He even said to the psychologist, I was going to kill like people for every year I've been in here. So, it's just really sad that that psychiatrist allowed him to be free, because he just would not have gone on to kill other people. But yeah, after researching this as well, I'm going to just change the photo, because this is one of his wishes while he was in trial. Here it is. This is actually Graham Young in Madame of Tussauds, the Chambers of Horrors. So while he was in trial, his wish was to be like next to his like young childhood like heroes, so he would say, Dr. Crippen and John Haig, the acid bath murderer. And actually they, in the Horrors of Chambers, they've actually done a wax work of him now, Graham Young. So he is actually in Madam of Tussauds. And researching as well, he actually done a painting of the Kray twins, and that was actually sold in an auction for £2,700 in the year of 2009. So, you know, it's just, it goes to show, doesn't it? You know, from such a young age as well, of him being obsessed with the poisons and, you know, being sent to Broadmoor. I just don't feel he should never have been released, you know, to be at that young age to go through poisoning people and killing them. You know, me personally, my opinion is that, you know, for someone like that at that age to be released, I just don't think they would ever be changed. I just think it's set in their mind to do so. He had the taste of it and he done it, and he admitted it, you know, so that's just my opinion. But yeah, if you've heard of this story, please let us know in the comments below. Yeah, if you have, please let us know. And thank you for watching, and hope to see you on the next video. But big love, peace out.